Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Conquer everything and compromise nothing. This show brings you real, raw, and vulnerable conversations. If you have never liked small talk and have been on a personal growth journey for a long time, stay tuned as Martine and her guests share empowering stories. Now is the time to own your past and look toward your future with hope. Believe in your dreams, and all that you want to achieve is possible. Transformation Coach Martine helps you accept and love you for you. It's time to listen to your heart and tap into your unlimited potential. You have the answers you need inside. Sometimes you just need the right guide to help allow transformation to happen. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome everyone to Transformation with Martine. This is where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. Happy Friday, everyone. My favorite day of the week. And I often say this is like being an entrepreneur Friday could mean, not as much as if you are in the corporate world, but still to me, it's just like an awesome day. You're going into the weekend. So thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know, my show is about hope. And my wish for you today is that you're left with hope when we come out of the show, and that you know that you too are resilient and you can get back up from absolutely anything. We really, truly can. My guest is proof today. I am proof. You can definitely do it. Without further ado, thank you for coming, my very good friend, Peggy Willms.
I just love it. I bring my coffee every time, and it's just, we're miles apart, but yet we're together. It's good to see you.
Yes, we are. You too. I've got no coffee, but my little mug here, right? And I started buying mugs since you too, even though I don't like coffee. I've got a whole array of fun ones. I can put whatever I want in these mugs.
I know, and nobody will know. It can be whatever. Yeah, I'm a mug. I started doing that, oh my gosh, years and years ago with radio or whatever. And now it ended up all being unicorn mugs, because I'm always saying I ride around unicorns. Now I have like 30 unicorn mugs from people, and I'm like, okay. And then it started to change up, but I get it. So, happy coffee time to you.
Happy, my husband just gave me this one, my favorite.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
It's a nice big one. And I decided, I'm going to put my pens in this one.
Good one.
Anywho, so back to the show. So Peggy, tell me, I have been meaning actually, hoping to sit down and talk with you about all this anyway. So tell me about the hurricane. I can't imagine going through that.
Hey, so for those of you who don't know, I live down here in Florida, and I'm a health and wellness coach, and I've been in my industry for a really long time. And when we got struck with Hurricane Ian last fall, it definitely makes you kind of put those strategies and tools in place that I've been barking at with others for 30 years. So it's like, I think the thing I wanted to just share today with whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a diagnosis that you didn't expect, whether it's a bankruptcy, it doesn't matter, a baby being born. Sometimes you can be prepared and have plan B and kind of move along. And then there are other times that you just can't. But regardless, it's our attitude that takes us through it, and that's our approach. And, when this hurricane hit us, I live on the Gulf of Florida. And we went through Irma several years ago. And, for those of you who don't live in Florida, we got pretty damn good weathermen. We usually know when the hurricanes are coming off of Africa and how long they're going to take, and the spaghetti strands. So it's not like living in maybe Kansas or Nebraska where a tornado hits and you're not prepared, or up in Seattle or California when it rains a lot and then your whole house slides down. We do have a pretty good idea of when stuff is coming, and we have our hurricane kits. if you're going to live here, and so we know that we are susceptible to Mother Nature in that fashion. With Irma, we left the state. We're watching ahead of time. We see whether we're going to stay or not stay. And so we left. With this one, we got a little bit off course. And we had just moved into the house 2 months earlier. As you know, I spent the whole time painting that house. I had 11 doors left or something. painted the whole house, and we'd been there 2 months, and we just moved in about 4 miles from water. We lived right on the water. So we just moved 4 miles inland. So as we looked at the storm coming, like anything, we figured it was going to head towards Tampa. And we had brand new hurricane shutters. The bathtubs were full. We knew what we needed to do, AM, FM radio. We had Yahtzee ready, all that stuff. We were like, we're going to hunker down and deal with this. Because again, we thought it was going a couple hours north. And so about a Sunday night, the hurricane hit on a Wednesday, but about Sunday night, we started to realize, okay, we're not going to get hit necessarily with water surge, but the winds are going to be a little bit more than we thought. And we thought we were ready. But Tuesday night, right, it's like we're getting ready to go to bed. And we were like, we're really hunkering down tomorrow. So, I mean, we always have enough water for a couple of weeks and those types of things. And then when we woke up that next morning, it was September 28th, and it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and the electricity had already started going in and out. And we were like, okay, this is it. And our shutters, what I didn't realize is when you go through that, I mean, it's black. It's dark 24/7 because we are blocked into our house. So as the day progressed and the TV was intermittent, we didn't know, like, is it coming to us? Is it hitting us? Are we in the eye? Because it's just, sometimes it feels like 100 miles an hour isn't that much different than 150 because it's all loud. It's just all loud. And then about 12 o'clock, the last clip, I won't ever forget the last clip. The storm hit us about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but the last clip we saw on the the TV, it popped up, local news, and it said, it's our local news, and it says, you are about to be in the eye of the storm. For those of you who haven't lived through the eye, this is what's going to happen, because they can detect with the speed.
Oh my gosh,
It's going to be about 4 hours that you're going to be hit with the kind of the first side of it. Then the skies are going to open, the bluebirds are going to sing, the neighbors are going to walk their children and their pets. And about 45 minutes later, get back in the house because you're going to get hit again for about another 3.5, 4 hours. And Martine was like clockwork. It was like a Disney movie. I mean, it just laid out, and we were just sitting in there in the dark home, and we heard everything get quiet. We started hearing dogs. We went outside. Of course, everything was demolished, right? It was like a lot of stuff was damaged, and you're just looking around, and then you head back in. And the second time was actually worse because our house had already been compromised about 20 minutes into the first part. Our walls started leaking and coming through all the fans. And so our roof is what got compromised. And then all the water. I mean, we had spouts coming out through the sides of our water, and we just moved in, right? So all those organized Tupperware bins I had in the garage that I worked so hard were all Christmas decorations thrown because we wanted to trap all the water. Which is really why we didn't have one single damage on any of our personal property, because Dana and I ran from, this bed's not wet, let's put the painting here, this bed's starting to get wet. And so we just danced around.
Wow. I can't imagine that. Just for someone that doesn't know much about hurricanes, the bathtub's full, is that for water?
Yeah, what the main thing that you do to prepare, other than like, you think naturally we're gonna not have electricity, so you try to prepare for that. Again, we just moved in, so the one piece that we didn't have was a generator, right? And we'd never met our neighbors either. So, but you pack up Ziploc bags with water, and you freeze them, and you fill up your bathtub and your sinks with water because you may end up needing to bathe with them. Because once the toilet's with water, there's no water to flush. Like that's how you're doing it. And we were without power for 4.5 days and without water for almost 40 hours. So it was not as bad as it could have been, but
it just comes to my mind as like disruptions. They happen, good, bad. They were always going to have them. you know, and there's like this silly little like things that come up, you know, because Michigan's known where I am right now anyway, bad weather, you know, and there's just this little silly meme of this woman, like she's scraping off her windshields, something like, no alligators, no hurricanes, you know, but she keeps scraping and scraping and scraping, you know, because we get this tremendous amount of snow.
Right.
And I had, you know, my husband's been gone for 2 months in Missouri, and you know, the weather's been somewhat the same, but not. And I reached out to him just by text yesterday morning, and I'm like, so how's it going over there? And he's like, pretty good right now. He goes, you're going to be hit though. You're going to have this horrible ice storm. I'm like, I know, it's coming. And he goes, we're 70 degrees. I'm like, oh, good for you. And then later that day, they got hit by a tornado where they actually had to take cover. You never know what's going to happen. You don't.
No,
Even with predictions coming. I mean, yes, you know,
nope.
the news will tell you, but you just don't, like, from one, like several hours to another. Sometimes you just don't know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what got us with, I don't want to use the word trapped, but we got to a place where you couldn't have evacuated if you wanted to, because what happened with where I'm located is everybody was coming down from Tampa because it was supposed to hit them. So our hotels, our highways, the interstates, our gas is being used, propane's being bought up, all of those things. And then you get in a way trapped, because where are you going to go? You can't go stay at a high rise. You can't go up Interstate 75 because they're all here.
Right.
Then it turned 90 degrees right at us in hours, you know, less than 12 hours.
Oh, you just wonder sometimes, you know, like the meaning, you know, it just comes up like, why? Like, I know you guys had just bought that house, and it's like, what the, you know, what for?
I know, especially painting it, girl. I am telling you what, matter of fact, when we finally found a contractor, which I can talk about later, but when we finally had him and he looked at the damage in our walls, and he said, you know, you did a great thing and a really bad thing by freshly painting these walls, because you potentially have trapped so much water behind there because they're brand new surfaces that after the first assessor leaves and we tear these down and try to mitigate everything, we're going to find probably a lot more damage than you think, because I trapped it in there with new paint.
And like, you how would you even know? Oh my gosh. All right, so we're going to take a break, everyone, and we'll come back and talk more about Peggy's story. Thank you for tuning in. Be right back. Today, where we conquer everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Peggy Willms. We are friends. We have done a book together. I was part of the book she created, basically, which is awesome. Another one is coming out soon, which is cool. So, Peggy, on the whole hurricane too, is it? Because like you were just talking about freshly painting the place, which make it harder for water and getting into the walls. Is there like a norm of houses in Florida that are built?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
You know, you have everything from, you know, the stilt houses that are, you know, out the good old typical thing you think of with Florida, the Key West, bright colors type houses you drive under. You have those, you have older ones, you have new subdivisions. They say if you're going to move to Florida, rent a car for 2 weeks and drive around, because it's all really pockets, and the ambiance is different and everything is kind of different. We did move into a subdivision that, you know, they weren't cookie cutter homes, but kind of cookie cutter homes. You know, luckily all of the power lines and everything were underground. So everything around us, as it's all falling down and there's power lines in the streets and stuff, it wasn't like that in our particular neighborhood. So as far as the houses go, there's a little bit of everything. Our house, we just bought it 2 months earlier, is built in 2014. And I'll never forget walking in. When Dana and I walked in, we were like, oh, this is it. We both work from home. We have to work our butt off for the next, you know, however many years. We're going to get this house. It's move-in ready. It's got great hurricane shutters. There's a little lake out back. And we just thought, turn the key. And then when we walked in, we're like, these walls are a little dark. Let's take the time now. It's no better than, paint the walls. And
Yeah.
so when we had just finished those, as we were talking during break, and we finally found a general contractor, he came in and was looking at the damage and the holes on the wall, that was spewing out the walls with the rain.
Yeah.
And he said, you kind of did a good thing here and a not so good thing here, because the fresh paint kind of traps in that moisture. And in fact, that's what happened. The thing, if I back up, when you open the shutters and you come out from the storm,
Mhm.
you don't know what you're going to get. And the other thing is, it becomes a very selfish place, like, okay, I'm breathing. Okay, let's stand up. What's going on? And then it goes to the next thing. Okay, what's up with the neighbors? What's going on?
Mhm.
Lastly comes those last calls from family members and friends who were like, are you okay? Or like one of the last ones was to my sister, are we in the eye of the storm? I kept asking, are we in the eye? Because we're like looking at
Mhm.
the time and we didn't know what was going on. Well, then it's 3.5, 4 days before you get to let them know.
Gosh, yeah.
So I didn't think about that. It's like I'm
Mhm.
doing my thing and I'm trying to get back with them. And the cell service was intermittent and some things were going out. Even 2 or
Yeah.
3 days later, we were getting texts from 2 or 3 days earlier.
Right.
And, some of the biggest observations that you saw, I wrote blogs about for weeks.
Mhm. Yep.
If this doesn't give you content to write about. But the first thing I noticed was the animals. The animals were
Mhm.
not the same after the hurricane. Not to mention, birds' nests and things like that
Mhm.
are all everywhere. But I remember sitting out back the next day and just kind of looking at my beautiful everything not there anymore. And I looked over and there was a flock of birds over there with the brightest, shiniest orange beaks. And honestly, the 10 or 12 of them were like looking at each other and going, is this Kansas? Like their
Oh
looks
my
on their face, like,
gosh.
where are we? And some of
Yeah.
the animals that we were used to didn't come back, because I've got this
Oh my
black
gosh.
bird that climbs trees by my house and he didn't come back. He eventually did. But it was the animals that I noticed. And then the other thing is how people act, obviously, right
Mhm.
after. We had never met our neighbors, and you would have thought that we all knew each other for 30 years after that. It was like, what do you need? What do you need? Do you need to plug into our,
Yep.
generator? We really couldn't leave our subdivision. And so we do have a lot of sheriff in our subdivision who actually would go out, come back, and the grapevine would happen. What's going on out there? What did you hear? Oh my gosh, is there any gas stations? And so it would
Yeah.
trickle kind of in. And then the other thing I recognized was, as far as environment is, and you know what I do, I work all the time
Mhm.
for other
Yep.
people.
Yep.
And that Friday before, Dana had said to me, I'm going golfing with my buddy. And
Mhm.
we're going to go to Boca Grande, which is a place I've always wanted to go sit out there. It's crystal blue. It's about 40 minutes from my house. And he
Yeah.
said, why don't you just go sit out there and chill? And I remember specifically thinking, oh, I'll get out there again. And something in me just said, go. I left all my social media. I left my phone. I left everything at home, took a towel,
Mhm.
took some stuff, snacks, and I sat there for 5 hours. And that beach is no longer there where I sat.
Oh gosh. Wow.
So yeah, and I was like, if that's not a lesson of stop putting stuff off. I don't care
Mhm.
what it is. Sitting in a tree house, I don't care what it is. Walking up a
Yep.
mountain, that spot is not there that I
Mhm.
sat at.
Yep.
And then for me, things became, I'm not real materialistic type person anyway,
Mhm.
but after something like that, and you're standing in there and you're going, what do you save? Do I save the clothes that I might need for tomorrow? Or is that painting really worth it? No, wait. And you start to process, and I kept going, where are my antique things? Like, where is my 1875, New Hampshire state constitution? Where's that
Mhm.
book? Where's this? Where's this?
Yeah.
Um, and so the things change, or you don't think about you have to live off cash for a really long time because you can't use
Right.
credit cards. That's another thing we knew ahead of time, because that's it. like, if you go get groceries, you have cash or too bad.
No machines will work. Like,
No electricity. We had no power.
yeah. Well, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
there was nothing. It's funny because, as you know, we talked in the beginning, I'm a coffee girl. I have been my whole life. Coffee, ice
Yeah.
cream, coffee nips, coffee, whatever. And I became known as, so funny, as the coffee lady in the neighborhood after the hurricane. And it
Yeah.
was so cute because people would, start waving at me across the way, and just like they'd hold up their coffee mug and they'd go like this because we didn't have a generator. And I
Yeah.
literally walked around with this, like, I would go over and see
Fill me
Ray.
up.
And
Fill
then
me
I go
up.
see Michelle. And then I was like, yeah, what's important, is my coffee.
Yep.
But I think after that, for me, one of the most transformational situations that happened for me, and this is going to sound extremely self-centered, egotistical, I don't care what you're going to call it, but I sat
doubt
out
that.
back it was probably about 24 hours after the storm. And I remember sitting outside on my lounge chair where I usually work. And I thought, it was actually, Martine, it was after we got power. It was right after we got power. And I remember sitting there and going right to my social media. I went to Facebook, and I went to email, and I went to my text, and I sat there and I was like, and I counted it. I said 27 people reached out to see if I was alive or asked anything about me. And I started bawling. I'm like, I've worked with 10,000 or more people and no one can. And I just, for about 30 minutes, literally lost my mind. And once I became positive again, as I do, I realized that hurricane was a metaphor of my own self hurricane. Peggy needed to go through that emotionally, physically, financially, and get out of the rubble, Phoenix out of the rubble, and get her act together. And it changed me just like that.
Gosh. Yeah, to me, it brings to mind the whole, like, I've lost a lot of people in my life, and that, like, like you've talked about, it's like when you lose people, you just realize that, you don't put off going to see a place, like you said, and you don't put off going to see someone.
Right.
You don't. And there are times that I still sometimes, we go through these ebbs and flows or whatever, where it's like, a lot of times with my brother, I would hang out with his wife, and and Stephen would hang out with my husband or whatever. And I didn't get that one-on-one with him. And I kept saying, we're going to do this. And we didn't, you just realize. And then going through cancer, like I did myself, was like, yeah, you're surprised the ones that do reach out to you and the ones that don't think twice about saying anything or seeing how you are.
And when I started to say that, after I realized that you have to share how this affected you, because that's how it's going to inspire others, and also others to be authentic and transparent.
Yep.
Because as a coach, and a business person, you have to mostly look like you have your act together, right? How are you going to go, hey, I can't master anything, but boy, let me help hire me.
Yeah.
You have to kind of balance that. But once I came out of this and I realized, and I started sharing my story, there were so many people around me who said, you have taught us how to treat you. You are always fine. You are always the fixer. You rise out of everything. We wouldn't, we're thinking about you. And I'm like, no, actually, I don't. I didn't know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I really relate to that. And that's like something that you don't expect somebody to say to you, but it's true. We do teach people how to treat us. And like I said, I so many people offered to help me, especially from the church I was going to at the time, with my kids and all that. It was really hard to accept that. But once I did, it kind of started getting easier, because I've always been the one to help. So why wouldn't, I accept some as well. And that's like, there was a person that I remember we had met up, and she's like, I'm buying lunch today. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't need to do that. She goes, don't take away my blessing.
Oh, I love that.
This is something I want to do. Don't take that from me. So I've kept that in my mind ever since then, that it is a blessing as well for other people to bless you as well. Yeah. So we need to take a break, but I'd love to come back and talk more about that, of allowing people into our lives. And also, I guess, just the grace that we're all running around so dang crazy sometimes that, gosh, we mean to do something and we don't. And We'll be right back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we conquer everything, compromise nothing. My guest today, Peggy Willms, has been talking about Hurricane Ian. Oh, Lordy. That was quite a thing to go through. And, like we were talking about a little bit, disruptions happen in life and they're here to teach us these things. I know we believe the same on that. And we were talking about how sometimes it's not easy for those of us that are always the doers to accept help. And also you're talking about also is just like teaching other people how to treat us. Right. So how did you take care of yourself, and what are you continuing to do to take care of yourself?
Awesome. The best way I can compare the two events that happened is, my mom died of really tough complications of MS about 1.5 years ago. And at that same time, my 5-month-old grandson had open heart surgery. And, we're talking in less than a week. I went home to say hi to mom. 36 hours later, she's passed away. I mean, so when you think about that, it's like, oh, someone's sick, or, oh, okay, he needs heart surgery. I can show up in my best self and deal with the aftermath after. I take care of my family, my friends, whatever it is. With this, it truly was like the universe said, hey, girl, you're not going to listen and take care of yourself while this is going on. So we're going to throw a storm at you. Mm-hmm. And the storm is me. I'm a category 4 in this case. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the option with power to reach out to social media or to talk with my words of affirmation, love language, and feel better. And, acts of service and feel better. There was no option. And day after day, I mean, when the 6 o'clock and the sun went down, we were like, what do you do? Like, there's no meetings, there's no calling anybody. So it's like, well, let's play Yahtzee by candlelight again. We played 4 days in a row of Yahtzee. Yeah. There's nothing else to do. So if I look at, taking care of my mom or being there for crew, I can show up for them, deal with me later. This, I spiraled, like I could see what was happening to me. The power came back. You're in bed 4 days now. You've been in bed, binge watching. And then I kept looking at, okay, if this was my storm, if this was Peggy's storm, and you have all this rubble and life has to continue. And if you're just like FEMA coming in or the contractors coming in and they're picking up everything, life goes on. Like everybody's they're in here. Insurance assessors, everybody is in here. So how is Peggy going to come up with her team? What is she going to do to clean this up and to get this going? And for me, I had to just honor, like, I'm like you, I have autoimmune stuff and I could feel it. I knew I was out of control. I'd never been out of control in my life. I am in control of everything, even if I'm not, Right.
I hear you.
Yeah. And so I sat there and my OCD, I couldn't do anything about it. I had really bad bout of OCD and anxiety just before the storm. I was trimming trees out in the front, trying to line them up because my OCD was so bad that they weren't in line. And when this happened, I thought, this is kind of cool. Nothing's orderly. Who cares if there's dishes in the sink? You don't have water anyway. And there was nothing that I could keep in order. And so I just honestly had to work on myself. And Cindy, one of my good friends and who who's also in my book, I had reached out to her and she could just sense like it was just not that good. She said, I want you to take your left hand. I want you to get a notebook and I want you to write to your little self with your left hand. Do not go back and read it. Do not care if anybody ever reads it, but figure out what that little girl needed and how you would help her through and why this stuff keeps happening, why you keep getting migraines, why do you keep having these baby battles? And I did that. I would have never done a homework assignment from somebody else. Like, ever. Like I assign them, I'm not doing them. Shut up. That's why I do this job. But I actually did it and it was ugly. It was like abandonment. No one cares. No one listens to me. I take care of it. And I was like going back to when I was 4. Again, my perception, my story,
Right.
and I very gradually kind of came out of it. I mean, my message to everybody would be is if you need to find a metaphor that seems outside of yourself to relate to figure out how you would get out of it and come back out of, I mean, use that thing to kind of step out of yourself and take your little hand and keep walking and kind of move
Right.
forward. Because it's just like our neighborhood. I'm in a hotel. I've been here since December 5th. And the reason I didn't move out the second that storm hit is I still had some studs, a busted up roof, and we were trying to find a contractor and get an insurance company to think it was serious enough to
Yeah.
play the game with us. And you have people knocking on your door, leaving business cards, making promises, trying to tarp your house, coming around the back, just it. Martine, there's two types of storm chasers, and I didn't know that till the storm. There's the ones with the Weather Channel that chase it, get there and announce what's going on, or they take the pictures. Then there's the after the storm chasers, though, and they are real. They look at where there's a storm, they get in their little trucks with their 18-year-old sons, and they grab a trailer and they come knocking on your door to make a buck, not insured, not bonded, not a real company, take your money and run.
Wow. Yeah.
Aftermath storm chase. And that, working through finding people we could trust that would take care of this, took us the longest time.
Wow. Plus so many people needing the help.
It's disgusting. And they're driving around the neighborhood and they start to see blue tarps on your roof, because that's kind of the blue tarp, is the FEMA starts bringing them in and everything, because you run out of blue tarps. Home Depot, nobody has them anymore. So you end up in line for an hour waiting for a tarp to put on your roof before it storms again on Thursday, because the rain's still coming. But they drive around, they see the tarps, and that's how they get to you is, have you fixed that yet? Have you fixed that yet? We're here to help you. And it's just disgusting. But we've been in this hotel since December 5th, since they, came in and started. We'll be here a couple, 6 or 8 more weeks. Right. Hotel living.
Yeah. That's what my husband's doing right now. It's not easy. I went to visit him for a week, and it's not easy. You kind of adjust, but yeah, it's not easy. So how were you and Dana? Like, how did he take care of himself? How did you guys take care of yourself? How did that work out?
I manifested that dude years ago, like 12 years ago. I so did. That's the best job I've ever done. I just literally one day said, I really need to find I need to marry myself, wherever that guy is.
Yeah.
Right. Because I knew for the rest of my life, the later years of my life, I would need a nurturer, somebody who was compassionate, somebody who listened, somebody that would kind of dumb down my energy, and then also respect that I love my job and that I am going to work all the time because it's my passion and it doesn't feel like a job. And we dance really well together. We both work from home. And so we know when each other's best time of day is. Like, I know when he's creative, when he's not, when I am, and when we need to take a break. There's no judgment. There's no like, I worked 8 hours today. What did you do? There's zilch. And, now we're in 500 square feet, both running businesses. With 400 people or however many in this hotel, and you don't know if there'll be kids running or a dog barking.
Right.
But we're alive.
Not easy.
So,
yeah.
So his self-care is a little bit different than mine, which we respect. Mine is typically, stop eating. My thing when I get busy and want to be busy, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to eat. And then I'm just going to start to control everything. So my OCD will kind of kick in. And that's what was going on before the storm, because we were just moving in, and I kind of was nesting-ish. But all the red flags that I usually have, I started to have all of them right after the hurricane. I'm like, here come the migraines, here come everything. And I just had to stop and coach myself through it. I changed my business. I will never be the same. I do not work 10 hours a day anymore. I take breaks when I need to. If I need to lay in the bed in there for 2 hours, I lay in there. If I want to walk down and sit on the beach and do it. If I don't want to do, all my social media has changed. I don't do lives. I don't do any, I've stopped. I write, postpone my radio shows, and I'm like, I have to be my best self. It's just.
Yes. And it takes time. to get through these things. I was actually telling my coach the other day that I don't think I've really taken time to process so much of my tragedies. I haven't. It's always like, okay, we're gonna go to the next thing, and raising kids, and they're just now to the point where they're adults. Just now, Chris turned 18. It's just, yeah. God, sometimes you're forced, like with my condition, like, okay, I do need to stop and pay attention. But I really have to battle that. I am just one of those people, just like you. I want to go, 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 go. But realizing like what really lights you up and what works for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
It and it changed my relationships around me. I mean, my two sons are very different human beings, and I always celebrate that. I've never tried to make them be the same. They're 7 years apart. And my youngest is the kind of emotional, empathic, how are you doing type thing. And so, he would ask me, and I would tell him the truth. It was no longer like, well, I'm fine, how are you? Or, what, and coaching him. My other one, we communicate in a different way, but I allowed them to start being there for me. My sister to be there. Faith, our friend over there in the UK, who I've known for a couple of years. I mean, her story after the storm, her saying to me, Peggy, I was so worried about you. Like, I don't even think, I was awake for like staring for 18 hours, praying, hoping you were okay. And then I slept for 14 hours because thank God you were okay. Like those type of stories, we have said with the compilation book that we've done together, storytelling is where it's at. No more barking, no more
doubt about this,
none of that. Tell stories, find a commonality, build a community around that or a relationship, and then spread like wildfire. Story over here, story over here. That's the only way we're collectively going to come together and figure this thing out, is how to agree to disagree and find a commonality and lift each other up. And that's my mantra right now. Yeah.
It's time for that. The tearing each other down and comparison stuff. It needs to be done.
Yeah. And, with, for me, what helped was comparing also last year. So when I wrote the first book with Marcus, called The Fourfold Formula for All Things Wellness, wrote that last year, we churned that thing out. The manuscript was in the publisher's hand in 5.5, 6 months. Like it was down and dirty, 30 authors. It was just pound. And then September 1st, when that came out and the storm hit 27 days later, the marketing took a hiccup. Everything took a hiccup because Marcus had kept saying to me, you are the beacon, you are the leader. And so if you don't take care of yourself and chill, we can deal with that with the second book, or we can deal with that down the road. But it hit 3 weeks later. With this second book, I took a different approach. Said the authors will come to me, not seeking them out. Going to write the content when I feel like it, and it hits me, because I'm not smarter if I don't force it. And that's how this second book, and it's taken more time. And
that's okay.
It's meant to be.
That's okay. That's okay. So where are you today?
Nice. I'm in my home away from home.
At
Christmas here at this hotel. We ended up an hour from our home. And part of the issue is that after this storm, all the VRBOs and Airbnb and hotels, by the time we moved out of our house and we got that second phase of insurance approved, which is a whole new game, they'll approve for the walls to come down, but they won't approve for the walls to be put back up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, trust me. So by the time we got ready to get everything in order and find who we needed, we were a little bit down the road in the sense of where are we going to go? There was like, and we knew we were going to be gone for a while. So we ended up in this extended stay hotel an hour from our house. We're probably going to be here till maybe the end of April. We're the longest stay couple in this hotel. Most people are here maybe 2 weeks. There were a lot of workers and things like that here, but we just, honestly, I'm telling you, girlfriend, it is all about attitude. I wake up, we were sitting downstairs by the pool. We've yet to even lay out, right? We were sitting down there and I just said to him, if our parents said, hey guys, you've been working really hard. We're going to give you a ticket to Southwest Florida for 4 or 5 months. Stay in a hotel that you get to do your laundry there. You do you. We would have been like, are you, whoa, this is like amazing. So why would we approach this any differently?
Right. Yeah,
We have
that's
our
the
life.
attitude.
We have our life where a lot of people, you come out of this with a little bit of PTSD as well, which I didn't realize, because for us, there are people that we have survivor's guilt, because we are okay. And a lot of places, Sanibel Bridge was down and Matt Lachey's bridge was down, and people lost their lives and their homes and their pets. And, and then you're like, okay, well, we're alive and we're actually going to be able to have a house. We had insurance. And so then you start having this survivor's guilt. Well, then you also, the next storm, the next thunderclap, the next time your lights flicker, that PTSD is like legit. The anxiety of like, even though it's not we're not in tornado land per se, we're not going to have to run the bulkhead, but it does take a while to get past that. Will we move? No, we're going to stay here. Do we know what kind of weather we have? Yep. Do we know it's a risk? But it's a balance. I'm a beach girl, and we could have 4 years of amazing, and we might have a really crappy year like we did.
Yeah.
It's a balance.
That is a thing. I've often wondered that a few times, like, how do people live in these places, where you have these things going on? But a lot of people ask me, what the hell are you doing in Michigan? So damn cold. I don't know. You just adjust, and it becomes a way of life. It becomes home.
You do. Dana was saying that to me before he left when I was getting ready for this show. And I was talking to him about the show today. And I said, your family is from Western Canada. And right now it's 38 degrees below zero with wind chill factor. And year after year, they know that's going to happen. Yeah. And year after year, they decide to still live there. Yeah. I'm not judging them and saying, oh, hey, stop complaining about it. Why don't you leave? We need people living in Canada and South Africa and living, having typhoons or wherever. Right. Everybody, that's what we're doing. And we are adults. We know what to expect. Yeah. Or we don't. We're still going to, you got to be emotionally and physically resilient to make it through the roller coaster, the hiccups of life. That's why you have to work on it when crap like this happens.
Yeah, because there's never going to be a time where it's just smooth sailing. That's never going to happen.
I always say that when it is, that's when oh gosh, it's like when things are up, they're going to go down, and when they're down, they're going to come up. So I don't ride the top of the roller coaster, ignoring the fact that, hey, this is a good ride, but it might not last for, I'm not a pessimist by any means, but you have to be resilient and you have to know your own red flags. That's the main thing I would say, is do a little bit of self-discovery and figure out what that is. How do you know if you're getting sick, or you're going to get injured, or you're going to be crabby to your kids, or you want to quit your job? Like, what are your red flags? And kind of figure those out a little bit, so you know yourself better to get out of this.
Yeah. And to, give ourselves credit that we are imperfect and flawed and all that. And sometimes, you might be expecting something, or, you've been working on yourself a lot, but then something comes up and you just, there's a, what was it? This woman, I think, was on a TikTok video, and she goes into a store and all these places and acts like a 2 or 3 year old, there's no more cereal. And she's just all over the place, and all these different things. And it's like, God, I felt like that, I just, I'm a, I can deal now, but there's still, gosh, I don't know. Sometimes it's just harder than others. And sometimes we're just our little girl, boy selves.
Yeah. For those of us, there's 2 spectrums. It's kind of a bipolar type situation, in the sense that there's one end where you're a super fixer and you just, you want to take care of everything and control everything. that person's still running from some internal work, right? Because you love the
Yeah,
busy,
for sure.
you're attracted to that mania. Then
Yeah.
there's the other side where you're so dependent, codependent on everybody that you don't learn those skills. So obviously you
Right.
want to kind of come in the middle and know when to lean on others or when to
Mhm.
be independent and do those things. But it really is kind of bringing together that bipolar place in life that,
Yeah,
just
that's the
dumb
way
down
to
the
put
edges,
it.
bring in the edges a
Mhm.
little bit. So
Yeah,
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 that's my life right
yeah.
now. So
Oh,
writing a
man.
lot, I'm writing a ton and just letting it fall out. And
Letting it flow out. Have you done any more with the left hand?
I
I'm
actually,
just thinking, I haven't done that in years.
oh God, I worked on it for about 3 days.
Uh-huh.
And I've yet to look back at it. My big
Oh,
takeaways.
really?
Nope, nope. I
Oh, I
just
would
knew
have wanted to see it.
I just knew, and I probably will. I'll end up blogging or writing about it,
Yeah,
Maybe there'll be a movie. I don't know. That's
there
me.
just might.
um, but I knew when I did that I may or may not, there was no judgment. But what
Yeah,
really fell out of that is, Peggy, you went through a storm, and who was there for you? You better be. You better
yeah,
be there. No pointing the fingers on being abandoned or abused or, degraded, whatever it is as a child that you feel no one's listening to me. Ultimately, I have to take responsibility. And that's the title of our second book, Win the
Mhm.
Wellness War. And the acronym for WAR is We Are Responsible. How do you sit up and go, do I need to call for help? Am I doing a good job? Am I not? And take that responsibility. So
Yeah,
I moved away from that old story of reading the same chapter. Nobody reads the same
Mhm.
chapter one of
Right.
the book. You've got to get to chapter 2. And I just set it aside.
Mhm.
And I said, write. It'll become a blog. It'll become a book. It'll do whatever. And that's how I'm expressing myself right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we're not silly. I mean, we know that we lived in our house for 2 months, right? And
Yeah,
then we lived in it destroyed for 2 months. And then we've been here for whatever, like 4, whatever. And then we were joking, like, will we be back in the house of like the same date when we closed last year? It's like, because you start to
Mm.
go, wow, I've been away from my house, but you
A
still have to take care of
long
it. It's like,
time.
who's doing the lawn? Who's doing this? All of our furniture had
Yeah,
to be moved out into an air conditioned pod because we have humidity here. So
sure.
you have to get that piece approved. And, we had some mold stuff, that we
Yeah,
had to deal with. And, but we too shall rise and move back there. And
yeah, yeah. So what do you think now, knowing that eventually something like this could happen again? Like, what would you be like, not just the normal prepared stuff for a hurricane? What in your mind do you need to do for you?
I, that's a good question. I think we'll still assess the way that we have, always
Mhm.
have things on hand, try to look
Mhm.
ahead. You usually know about a week ahead if it's headed your way. We now
Yeah,
know, of course, Charlie, Hurricane Charlie curved this way, and now Ian curved this way. So obviously
yeah,
it's a, has the ability within 12 hours to take a 90-degree angle. So we have
right.
that information. Will we leave again? Will we stay and save all of our personal property? For then is another day. The
Yeah,
way that we'll get ourselves out of that is going to shape shift from what I learned now till then.
for
And
sure.
who knows the tools and strategies that I'll put in place the next time. But I have the information. It's part
Yeah,
of my history, and
yeah,
I'm not going to forget it or tuck it away. We all can use our history for our future. That's
yeah.
brilliant.
It is. There's no doubt about it. It's brilliant. And what keeps coming to my mind too is you talking about the animals. Like, it, I can just picture like what the hell happened. Like, even like an animal wondering what the heck happened and what do we do? That's
We
gonna be
have
so
all these turtles.
scary.
We had some alligators in our little lake back there, and we had like this one turtle, and we went out there and we had like 5 of these turtles. And we're like, are they, I mean, because think about it, we're hunkering down. You better believe they're just like, what up? So
Yeah,
we're just enjoying the changes and watching the rebuild. Boy, are we resilient, we humans.
you are. We are. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
We are. I talk to a lot of people, obviously, this is the show that I do is resiliency. And it's just amazing, I think, of some of the things that people actually go through, and they're still going.
That's right.
And they're learning.
Why?
And some
It's
of us are
because of
teaching.
it's their attitude
Yeah,
and the way they approach things. Period.
Yep.
Exclamation point.
That's right.
Cancer,
That's right.
I mean, those people who cure that from an attitude, let's just say, God, whatever it is, we can cure each other by our attitude and our approach and believing in ourselves, and, pick up the pieces. Let's go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we only have just like a couple seconds left. Anything else you want to just say real quick?
All I really want to say is, if you guys have a story to tell, hop on my website at allthingswellness.com under the author tab. We've got a couple more compilation books coming out, and the world needs to hear your story, inspire other people, and we'd love to get to know you.
It does, and it's a great place to be for all of you who would be considering it. It's a great place to be, a great community to be in, and do tell your story. It's everything. You never know who you're going to touch. It's worth it. Share.
That's right.
Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. Thank you, Peggy, for being here.
100.
And we'll see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Have an awesome day. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Transformation with Martine, real, raw, and vulnerable conversations. Listen or watch live every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com as Martine and her guests have deep, meaningful conversations, sharing empowering stories. Step into your passions and lead with your heart. If you are ready to accept and love you for you, visit martineemmons.com and start allowing transformation to happen today.